It's about getting into schools and talking to young people because, you know, I know that people can change. And it's about talking to people and getting them to understand and perhaps step back from violence and prejudice and whatever. And we just need to work together and keep on the good fight there.
Absolutely. Hey there, guys. We are ecstatically happy to announce that we are associated with the Sophie Lancaster Foundation.
The times are changing, and with the unfortunate death of Sophie, those changes have made a massive impact for the future. If Sophie was with us still today, I can guarantee what you are doing will still be reaching so many lives of young teenagers, young adults, and those who wish to be as different as possible. So thank you very much.
To find out more about this incredible foundation and all the work they do, and more importantly, how you can help, head on over to www.sophielancasterfoundation.com.
Hey Jamie, do you like being cozy?
I do.
And do you like staying cozy?
I like that even more.
Then just heading over to www.staycozyclothing.com,
where you can find hoodies, tees, sweaters, and much, much more.
And just enter The Chronicles as one word at checkout to receive 10% off your order.
And make sure you follow them on the Instagram at Stay Cozy Clothing to keep up to date with all the new designs.
Remember, guys, that's The Chronicles as one word at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And now back to this week's episode.
Hi, this is Matt Roberts. You're listening to the Chronicles of Podcast with the legends, Tom and Jamie.
Well, use tweezers to pluck my ass, boys. Welcome to hashtag WBW Way Back Wednesday. And these are the Chronicles of Kelli Jones. Why Kelli this week, Jamie?
Why Kelli this week? Because this week on Friday, we released the Chronicles of Pierre Bohanna, a man who has worked on special effects costumes for incredible movies like The Flash, Justice League.
Oh, yes.
So many.
Oh, yes.
So why not talk to an actual costume designer?
Not the lead singer of Stereophonics, guys.
I was about to say, let's point this out. It's not the lead singer of Stereophonics. A very different Kelli Jones. This Kelli Jones is a costume designer working on some incredible projects you may have heard of, including a little ditty of a movie called Straight Outta Compton, the NWA story. She worked on Bright with Will Smith. She worked on the Power Rangers reboot. She designed Rita Repulsa's costume from scratch.
Incredible.
And also she's most famously known for her work on Sons of Anarchy, that incredible TV show that typically I didn't watch till after we did this bloody interview.
Standard isn't it, really, Jamie, to be fair? We always go, these people are great to talk to, and then watch their shit afterwards.
Yes, pretty much.
But Kelli was wonderful, a really, really lovely person to speak to. But just the thing is, obviously, she changed her husband to the radiator because you can see him try to escape. If you watch the YouTube, you'll see him try to escape halfway through the interview where he toddles off in the background. Very, very funny. But no, she talks about how she's at Dre's house, how if she gets involved in a movie, she will go to that person or go to wherever, to get inspiration to help her think and design these costumes. So obviously, Sons of Anarchy was a huge TV series, and now she's really friends with Charlie Hunnam and obviously his other half. Just a true, wonderful, and inspirational person. She's just such a great conversation. Obviously, we're big Power Rangers fans, so obviously we thought Power Rangers, boom, let's get her in. And then you hear about all the Straight Outta Compton had so many costume changes, mental. It's like, how do you keep up that sort of thing? It's like, right, get into this, now get into this, now get into this, now you get into this.
My biggest regret for this interview is the fact that I didn't watch Sons of Anarchy beforehand, because when I watched the show, you can see what she's done with these costumes. You see characters that go from really innocent, like just run-of-the-mill innocent woman, and she has this dark turn throughout the show, and you can see it reflected in her clothes. As weird as that sounds, just like the look of the character changes the darker she gets in her performance. And I was like, fuck, Kelly's clever. I was like, she did such a good job of this show.
It shows the talents of a good costume designer. It can make you feel that and make you realize and see that coming. Absolutely incredible.
And I had a quick look at Kelly's IMDb before we jumped on here. Since we spoke to her, she's worked on Day Shift, a movie with Jamie Foxx, which is coming out, and also Samaritan with Sylvester Stallone. Incredible people she's getting to work with.
There are some remnants of those two movies. We're talking about them in the interview. Obviously, we didn't go into much detail because they weren't around then, but obviously there are little bits, so you can hear little snippets of those in the interview. Jamie!
Yes, sir.
Any final words?
Kelly, thank you so much for doing this. We had so much fun talking to you back when we did this. Hope you're well, love, and I hope your husband eventually escaped.
Kelly, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. We really, really appreciate it, and we thoroughly enjoyed sitting down to talk to you. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the Chronicles of Kelli Jones.
So, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a guest unlike any other we've had on the show. When watching TV and movies, we always notice the awesome costumes and clothes that people are wearing. But in my opinion, the people who give you that look don't get talked about quite enough. And today's guest has designed costumes for award-winning projects and so many iconic characters. Here to talk about her awesome story and her awesome career is Kelli Jones.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you so much for coming on. It is hugely appreciated.
Yeah.
So, Kelly, how was 2020?
Weird. I mean, it's about as weird as it could be. Like when you're repeatedly saying, I can't believe we're all living through this. I was doing a movie that was halfway done with shooting, and it was March 15th or 14th. And they came to set. It was a Sylvester Stallone superhero movie. The costumes were getting bought in or made in New Zealand at Weta. And they came to our set, and basically the producers were like, we're shutting down tomorrow. Sly's going back home, and we'll be back in 4 weeks. And that's what it is. And they just want the hospitals to just be able to, deal with all the people coming in and just get a little bit more contained. And we'll see you in 4 weeks. And so that happened March 15th. And then it was 4 months of not knowing if we were going back. But New Zealand was really good because they totally locked down. And so they started working again. And we didn't know if the movie was going. So I was working with them throughout the hiatus or the pandemic from home, designing the costumes. And then we went back, we started working. So we finished the movie. So it was weird. Yeah. We finished the movie. I know, it was crazy. And it was October, and I was sitting with one of the producers, and the date that it's coming out is supposed to be June 30th. And I said, do you really think it's going to be June 30th? Is that going to stick? Because, the theaters weren't open. And he goes, Kelly, if it's not June 30th, we all need to get another career. If we are not back in the theaters by June 30th, there is no more entertainment industry. And we are probably not going to be back in the theaters by June 30th, but we'll see. So the movie's done. So I think it's still slated for that. And it's going to be this awesome, crazy, just big action superhero movie. So I know they want it on the big screen, I'm assuming. So we're just waiting, fingers crossed. But yeah, 2020 was weird. And doing fittings with a mask I had to wear 3 masks. You have to wear 3 masks. And I know you have to wear first it's the KN95, then you wear the medical over it, and then you wear a face shield.
Wow.
Why?
One of my costumers, his wife works for the CDC, and when he told her that's what he has to do to go to work, she said, you have to wear more face coverings than we do in the labs with viruses. So it was, but we got it done, and that's just going to be the norm now. So everyone's adapted. So yeah, so that was cool. It was interesting. Cool. That was interesting. So yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, at least got the movie finished. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I was furloughed from work of March last year, and I went back this week.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Working out of home?
Say that again, sorry?
were working from home during then, or you were like furloughed?
No furlough.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
been something.
The
arts and the hospitality sections of the world have just been slammed, just, screeching halt. And then the other industries that are just working, they're working from home, lawyers, they're just working still.
I mean, this strain we've got now in the UK is obviously shutting things down again. So I don't know if it's even reached you guys over there yet. I don't think.
There's a couple that have been tested positive for it in California. I think there's like 4 states that they've tested. LA is shut down like the UK right now. I think they haven't officially shut down shooting, but all the studios said we're not shooting right now. And you can't do anything. I mean, you can do nothing. So because I think it reached LA. So yeah, which is weird because they're going to open back up. So it's like, how are these people getting, who is going anywhere to get sick? I don't understand. How these people are getting COVID. No one can do anything outside their house. It's very weird. I know.
Anyway, so yeah, we're actually here to talk about you. So,
so take us back. What made you want to get into costume design? Was it love of fashion, a love of movies, a love of design? None of those?
It was a love of fashion. It was a love of design. I actually had a jewelry line that I designed. I soldered clothes and I designed jewelry. And I think if I would have lived in New York, it would have kind of, transformed into some sort of a clothing line. But it's LA, so it's the entertainment industry. So there's not a lot of, the big fashion houses in New York and over in Europe. And so I was on sets of movies just from MTV, just from friends that I was with and hanging out in LA. And I just realized very quickly that that's what I wanted to do. And I was young, so I just decided that I wanted to work. I wanted to do I didn't want to just do, jewelry, which then would become clothes. I wanted to design the clothes for TV and movies. So I kind of taught myself how to do everything. I first taught myself how to illustrate. So luckily now the illustrators are so much better than I am. So I don't have to do that anymore. And also I taught myself how to sew. I bought a little, Singer sewing machine and just kind of taught myself how to do a bunch of stuff and, got into the union, and I was a set costumer for a hot minute, and then, started designing. I think I was I'd been doing costuming for maybe a year. And then I just started designing, student films and indies and stuff that, I was paying out of my pocket to do. But, LA is not a tricky place. LA is an interesting place because if you stay there long enough and if you can just muster through some of the bullshit, you kind of come up together. So with the same group of people, even if you're not friends. So I was a set costumer on the show called The Shield, and Kurt Sutter was the staff writer. So I only had talked to him maybe once on set. He would just be there for his episode. And I was a costumer of, Michael Chiklis and Walt Goggins and, whatever cast. I mean, I was actually on set. So, and then when he did Sons of Anarchy, I got the call to do that from him because then that was his first show. And so, yeah, it's just kind of snowballs into there. So a lot of the people, like I'm friends with a lot of people that were assistants back in the day, and now they're big producers and they're big writers. And, so it's kind of cool if you can, LA is a weird, odd place, but if you can stick it out, and if you really are focused, like it's easy to kind of see your path once you give it a second.
That's amazing.
That was a long version by why I started costume design. It really had nothing to do with the design. So,
I mean, the whole point of why we do this thing is obviously we want to hear from you anyway. They listen to us talk shit for like a whole hour before the interview. So, we want you to give as much as possible. They want to hear from you.
Perfect. Okay. I don't know how much people want to hear from me, but let's go. Let's continue.
Oh, absolutely. Of course they do. What do you mean?
So you say you self-taught, but obviously to start off with, did you go back and study any of these like design or anything like that? It was literally all self-taught.
It was all self-taught, and then the first show I did was The Shield. So that's when it was like, and that's very gang. It was just really heavy gangs, and it was shot in like East LA and South Central, and just like some sort of like just areas that had that sort of grit to it. And that was kind of my school on how to figure out how to make that sort of world, because I saw it on the show, like the designer did a great job on the show, make that sort of like underbelly of society and just like the gang world, kind of romanticize it for people. Most people that watch shows like that, most people that watch Sons of Anarchy are literally office workers living in the middle of America or the middle of wherever, and they've never even been on a motorcycle, but it's something that's so sexy and so cool. So that's kind of how I just taught myself. I just really paid attention. It's really a lot of observing, because then once I started designing for bigger shows, I didn't need to sew, and I didn't, I illustrated for years, and then now I have, illustrators that do all this crazy work on the computers and stuff. I was illustrating with pencils and pens. So that's kind of, just what happened. So I didn't go back to school. I wish I could say that I went to, some fabulous, FITM or some fabulous fashion design school in Paris, but I did not.
Honestly, I think it's more impressive that you did.
But no one in LA, so many people I know in LA that have really made it at their craft did not go to school. It's so weird. It's like, I'm not saying that any sort of those schools don't give you something and the tools you need and really like jumpstart your career. But a lot of people I know, they just, they're hustlers, and they just, like, I was a hustler. I just got jobs any way I could by reaching out to people I didn't know, cold calling, doing these emails, like, hey, you hiring a costume designer, like taking jobs for nothing. And so, so.
It's almost like colleges and universities just go, yes, give us all your money and you might get something out of it.
Yeah. I mean, really living in LA is an education in and of itself. It's just it's a cool town if you can really get through like the surface of it. So that's kind of and most of the stuff that I've done that's pretty well known is based in LA. So, I've done like superheroes and stuff like that, but like, Straight Outta Compton, Tax Collector, Sons of Anarchy, that's all based around LA. So, and the movie that I'm starting a Jamie Foxx vampire movie I'm actually starting this week. That's also based in the San Fernando Valley. So thankfully I've done enough due diligence with research there to know the vibe of the vampires in the Valley. The Tom Petty song. So.
So do you have to pitch your ideas to people, or do they go, these are the ideas we have, away you go?
It's a mix, and it all depends on the personality and just who the director is sometimes. Because what I used to do is I would go in with very specific, I started with TV because that was just what I knew. I'd go in with really specific illustrations, and sometimes you shoot yourself in the foot with that, because if it's so exact, but it's not what they're thinking, they'll think that you don't know how to kind of absorb anything else than maybe their vision. So then now I just go in with boards, and I give them, they're just mood boards, and there's color palettes, and it's tone, and I just give them an idea of what I think would work best, because honestly it's their movie, you know what I mean? Like, it's the director's movie. So he's hiring me to do a job. I will tell him what I think, like what I think could look best based on what his world he's trying to create, or her world she's trying to create. And then if it's something different, then there's only been a couple times that it's really been kind of a but this is what I think. I don't really agree with what you're saying. And they're like, well, I don't care what you think. I'm the director. And I'm like, okay. Normally, because the directors I work for, I really admire. So it's like, I do, when they say something that wasn't what I was thinking, I don't have any ego to my shit. I'm just like, oh, I get it. Like, if that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, I'll say I don't believe that makes sense, but let's talk about this. But normally, that's only happened like one or two times in like the 20 years I've been doing this. And then, again, it's like the director it's his movie or her movie or her TV show. So I bring in what I can, I'm opinionated, but not to a fault, to where it's just because you don't want to work in a contentious relationship with a director where it's like, and I know designers, I have friends that are designers that have this happen. It's like, they go in, they've been designing for a very long time, they have a massive pedigree, and they don't like some of the director, and it's this, and there's no blending. So, and then it just makes a horrible experience. You know what I mean? So I try to make sure that, it's a lot about the experience too, and just make sure that, everything kind of works together and the vibe is good. And that normally is what kind of puts out a pretty decent project. So, our product.
Nice.
That's awesome. How do you go about getting jobs in this line of work? Is it, do you have to apply? Do they seek you out, or do you hear of a project and like, oh, can I do it?
That's what I used to do. I'm telling you, I would comb through Deadline Hollywood. This was years ago. Or I don't even know if Deadline was around then, but like Variety, and I would see what projects they were. And I knew someone who knew someone, I would absolutely, reach out to them. That's what I mean about like, I'm just a hustle. Like I would do emails. I have no shame. I will ask for a goddamn job, because that's the other thing I learned in LA, is that nobody's going to give you anything, and you have to take it or you have to ask for it. But then I got a really great agent. So I've had an agent most my career, and they've all been good. But now, the agent I've had, he's amazing. So now in the past couple years, probably 3 years, most of the jobs I've done, he's found for me. And then he says, so-and-so wants to meet you, and we'll set up this meeting. And now it's like on Zoom. And then that's how I've gotten, that's how I got Venom. But it's all connected. Like Venom, Ruben wanted to meet me. And then it turned out that he had worked for another producer for a couple of projects, who was a good friend of mine. So I called that producer and I said, if Ruben reaches out, like, can you just tell him that I don't suck and that I'm like, I know what I'm doing? And I worked for him several times. So then he called Ruben, and it was just like that sort of thing. But that started because my agent said, well, there's this movie with Tom Hardy and they want to meet you and it's superhero. And I was like, yes, please, that would be fun. And so, so that's kind of how, it's just, now it's a lot of, but the director I'm working with now, JJ Perry, he is a stunt coordinator. So he was a stunt coordinator on a movie I did called Homeland forever ago, Homefront forever ago with Jason Statham. And then he's a stunt coordinator on Samaritan. And now he's doing this big Netflix movie, and it's his first big budget movie, and he's directing it. And he's he's killer, and his vision is going to be so cool. So I'm working with him, but I know him. So there was just like an initial meeting of just being like, what do you think this movie is going to look like or should look like? And I told him, and he dug it. So he hired me. So that's kind of.
So talk about Venom. Do you only focus on the lead, or did you do absolutely everybody?
I did everyone. Oh, I don't know if I should say this. I did everyone but Michelle.
Okay. That's why I was just curious, because I don't know if it's like, we want you to design, for Tom Hardy, for whatever, and then, I didn't know if you had like specific people you had to work on, or if you were given like wide berth to do absolutely everyone, or, that's what I was curious about, really.
Every movie I've ever done, I did absolutely everyone. That was the only movie that I didn't do someone. So
okay.
That was a weird situation.
Okay.
She came on, she had her stylist out of New York, and it was a different genre for Michelle, and I totally understand while she was a little apprehensive, because it was fantasy but contemporary, and she plays a lawyer, and a lot of the stuff that she's played before, it's either period or it's just a little bit more like blue collar, downtrodden sort of characters. And I've always admired her work. Like, I think she's amazing. But so she came in with a stylist from New York, and that had done her red carpet look, and then she ended up switching to another stylist in LA that did another red carpet look. And the challenging part with that is that neither one of those stylists had worked on TV or movies before, or TV. So they didn't understand like the continuity and multiples, and like we would get a box of like a shirt and pants, and she's got a stunt double, and it was just kind of crazy. But that's what she wanted, and I was busy enough, and I said, cool, that's totally fine. And but normally, I would do everyone, but that's the only movie that I didn't do. I didn't do Michelle. And I did hear on Venom 2, she also, it shoots in London, so I didn't end up doing that. She also used someone else, separate than the costume designer. So she kind of has her person to just like, design for her.
That's fair enough, I suppose. Just
Fair enough.
cool. You do.
And you know what? Each their own. And I think Michelle is great, and she's super sweet, and I totally understood that. And again, it took me a second. Like, I'm like, shit, should I be offended by this? And then it's like, no. Like, first of all, she's on the screen. She's worked with these people forever, and okay. I was like, that's what's up. So, Tom Hardy and some jeans and a t-shirt. Let's continue.
So what would you say was your big break in order to get yourself out there? Because you don't just land a movie like Venom off on a whim. Was a certain project that got you into these people's eyes?
I was doing Sons of Anarchy, and it was the year I think I was nominated for the costume, which I'm so out of like that world. When I was nominated for a Costume Designers Guild Award, I didn't even know that there was Costume Designers Guild Awards. I didn't even know that there was an actual event. That I'm just so in my own world when I'm just in my own world, and I'm not like in like that network or like circuit. So I was doing Sons, and I knew that it had a huge following. I had my own clothing line from it that shot on that sold on FX, and and I was working really. My best friend is Charlie Hunnam's girlfriend. She was designing with me for the clothing line. So we were just in this like weird world family up in Sons, and all of a sudden I get a call saying the director wanted to meet me, who's doing the NWA biopic. And at that point I was like, this is random. I just thought it was random. I'm a little young. Like I knew Dr. Dres, like Chronic, all that music. I was a little young for NWA. So I really had, and my husband was one of the guys that started Complex Magazine. So he's like, you're doing it. You're going on that meeting. And I'm going to prep you on every fucking NWA. I'm like, NWA, what's going on? And he's like, yes. So I just researched, went on the meeting with F. Gary Gray, and who's a director. And it turns out, which I did not know this until I was doing the research, I dressed a lot of the Sons the same way that Cube and Dre and those guys dressed. So the director of the movie, huge motorcycle guy, huge fan of Sons of Anarchy. So I go in there and we just chat like a little bit, and I bring him the boards, and I got a call a week later, and they're like, and so that was the biggest movie that I did. So because of that movie and how successful that movie was, that's when I started getting other stuff. So it was honestly, before the movie came out, it was a week before, because we didn't know it was only a $20 million movie. None of the guys were stars. You know what I mean? Like no one playing, like it was Cube's son that played Cube. So, and none of the other guys had ever been in anything big. So it was like, just this, let's hope it works and doesn't look like a Lifetime movie sort of a thing. And Gary calls me a week before it comes out, and he just goes, Kelly, I'm just going to say this. He said, be careful you pick from now on. He goes, because you're going to be in a different level than you were. Because he knew that I hadn't really done like a big movie. I mean, I did Homefront, but not like a movie of that level. And he just said, like, I know it was the hardest movie I've ever done in my life. I like almost killed myself, but he was like, I know that, that tortured you. He's like, but it's going to be worth it. This movie is like top notch. So then it came out and it was nominated for an Oscar. Like the writers were nominated for an Oscar, and it just kind of like, I don't know. A lot of people that around the movie think that it kind of changed the way that the Oscars are even like voted on now. Cause there was very few Black movies and directors and stars during that year. And Sons of Anarchy, Straight Outta Compton, like just surpassed so many movies in so many different ways that got nominated, that there was like this big movement of like, this is bullshit. Like Hollywood is bullshit, and the voting and the Academy and all that stuff. And we need to bring more African-American projects to the forefront. So I believe Sons of Anarchy really, Straight Outta Compton was really the project that kind of helped that anyway. So
absolutely incredible. It's easy done. You've done so many projects, so it's not surprising you keep getting stumbling over them.
And they're just the two same word sounding whatever. So you can always edit now. Just not gonna edit, cannot edit. Where'd my whatever. But anyway, so that's the answer to your question. So then after that, David Ayer. Then I did another movie, I think after it came out, Power Rangers. I did Power Rangers. Then after that, David Ayer called me about Bright. And he was raised in like East LA, South Central. He knows all of those guys. He knows Gary. And he's like, I'm doing a movie. It's about, Bright's another one that's based in LA. It's about, it's like this kind of fantasy movie, but it's sort of like if aliens are walking around, and it's all based in LA, South Central, East LA, all that stuff. There's going to be gangs, there's going to be fairies, there's going to be whatever. And he's like, I know your work. I loved Straight Outta Compton, and let's do this movie. And I was like, okay. So it was, and it's just, I still don't know what project I'm going to do when one ends. Like, I still get nervous about that. And, that is the life of freelance. I have realized and come to terms with is that if you are not nervous that you're never going to work again after your job ends, you're not fully freelance. That is going to be the rest of my life. But yeah, I also worked with David a couple times. He's a great director. I've worked with the same people several times. So yeah. So
going back to TV quickly. So I noticed that you did Parks and Recreation, but you only did like 18 episodes, but then you did Sons of Anarchy for the whole 92. So was there any reason why you only picked for specific episodes, or was it just because another project came up and you had to go onto that instead?
So Sons of Anarchy only shoots for 6 months. So that shoots for 6 months, and then you got 6 months off. And it's, I don't make a producer rate. So of course, you need to keep working. So I think it was towards the end of Sons, I got a call to meet Greg Daniels, who is the creator of The Office, the American Office, and Parks and Rec. So I meet him, and it's the first comedy thing ever. And I'm like, are they sure they want to meet me? That was just weird. So and he's great. And I, of course, thought that I totally just flailed in the meeting. And I'm like, well, this is just whatever. That was a good shot, and I'm never going to hear from them again. And then I get a call and I get the job. So I do the pilot. I do the first season, which kind of happens a little bit during Sons, when it came back, and a little bit of time that I was just doing that. They shoot a mile away from each other. So I was able to do both during the short time that I had to do both during the first season. So then we do the second season, and the second season, I'm pretty much doing Sons and Parks and Rec at the same exact time.
Oh my God.
Pretty much the whole thing. So it was, I know a lot of designers, there are plenty of designers, Lynn Paolo, Deborah McGuire, they do 4 to 5 shows at a time, plus a movie, different states. I can't, I'm too, I don't micromanage, but my hands are too in everything and every character to be able to do that and just kind of let it go to just, I don't have other people fitting day players. I fit the day players and I fit the main stars. So when it was the hardest period of work that I'd ever done doing those back to back. So when we got the third season, they called me in the office and they're just like, oh, we got the third season of Parks and Rec. This is so exciting. Let's just all all have a meeting and see everything that's been going on and blah, blah. And I just said, I can't do the third season. And they were shocked. And I just was like, I'll kill myself. I can't, because it was going to continue to be when Sons shot. So I just was like, I can't do it. So I left. And then I talked to Amy and I talked to everybody. It's a fun show. It's crazy. It's weird. Comedy's weird. So, comedy's hard. I'm just going to say that. Comedy's hard. So it was a hard show. And so that's why I did it. So I did and I would have continued on. I would have continued doing it until there was no more Parks and Rec, but I just couldn't do them both at the same time. And I knew, Kurt would have killed me if I would have ever left Sons of Anarchy. The first time that I asked, I would tell him I'm doing other projects. And basically, he's not a man of a lot of words. He's a lot of words on paper, but he doesn't really like people that much. He likes people, but just to a point to where you don't sit and chat with him forever in the office. You know what I mean? It's here's a picture. Do you like it? Cool. And I would tell him, I said, I'm doing another show or I'm doing whatever. And he would just kind of look away and he's like, I don't notice you're not here. And I'm like, okay, cool. So that's kind of what happened. And so I was always very present there, and I just never wanted him to notice I wasn't there. So it was just too much to do those two shows together. So that's kind of why I stopped.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, also with Straight Outta Compton, I noticed obviously with the different scenes as well. So like, I imagine you have to think, so this is the shot where they're going to walk down, there's a, where they're, I don't know, out in the street or whatever, and you got to think, oh, so what they're going to wear here, what they're going to wear here. It's like, how does that process work out? How do you just go, well, that's the scene, and maybe I should wear this and this?
Well, for Straight Outta Compton, there was some issue the script right before we started shooting. So I think Dre wanted to tweak it a little bit, and Q wanted to tweak it a little bit. So we didn't have a full script to where we knew what we were going to shoot until pretty much the day or two before. And that was the whole movie. And that included the pool scenes. So, I mean, it was a moving target, that movie. So I just think that most of the time I would show Gary for that movie. There was 866 changes for that movie. So, and then there was like one day they just decided to do a montage scene. So that montage that they did where the boys are all in the studio, I think they tried to map it out to where it was like 8 different days. So that's 40 changes. And Gary was, he's known Cube and Dre a long time. He wanted to get this movie needed to be right. So a lot of the times he wouldn't let me really put something on one of the guys unless he saw a photo of it. So, I mean, one time, so I would show him photos like, yes, Cube wore this. Like Cube would give me a picture, or Dre would show me pictures or videos of the actual pool parties. And I'm like, see, Dre's actually wearing this. But that's kind of how it was day to day. And I would just show them pictures. And then then the guys would get dressed. They'd come to set. And then sometimes they would do the lighting and they would do everything. And then right before we started shooting, Gary would be like, Kelli, come here. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I'm not feeling it. And I'm like, excuse me? As I'm trying to get their next change that's working in an hour. And he was just like, I'm not feeling it. And I'm like, what are you feeling? He's like, I'm not feeling it. They need to change. And I'm like,
thank you for that constructive criticism.
Yeah. Oh no, it was a really tense movie because there's not a lot of room for error in that movie. It's Dre and Q were on set every day. So, and everyone just wanted to get it right. I mean, it's just an important part of history in general. And so yeah, but that's pretty much it. I just show them pictures and see if that's something they like, normally from a previous fitting. So yeah.
That's mental. So looking at your career, you've worked on a lot of different styles of movies. So you got biopics like Straight Outta Compton, you got your fictional shows like Sons of Anarchy, you got out of these world projects like Bright and Venom. Do you have a different approach for a different style of movie, or is it all you have the Kelli Jones way of working?
No, I mean, it just depends on what I'm working on, what sort of, like, there's some movies less complicated to design than others. So the movie that I just did, Samaritan and Power Rangers, those costumes, I designed them with illustrators, and I'm talking hundreds of illustrations until we get it right. And then those costumes are 3D printed. So those aren't things where I shop a bolt of fabric and, then I can try it on an actor. And if he likes it, it's like the actor has to get scanned. So there's zero room for error. So like Elizabeth Banks, her costume, Rita Repulsa, that took about 5 months of prep for Power Rangers. So that costume took about 2 months just for the illustration to get done. And then when I first met Elizabeth, she came in to scan her body because it's such a tight costume. And all you can do is show her a picture. So you show her a picture and you're like, this is what it's going to look like. She's cool. She's like, yeah, okay, that's cool. She's like, as long as my bits are covered, I'm good. And then she doesn't see the costume until, the costume takes about sometimes 6 to 8 weeks to make, and she doesn't even see it until it's like a week to 4 days before she's in it. So that's like when I change my approach on things, it's if something has to be made that's that it's that specific, and it's that detailed and intricate, and 3D printed, and the pieces are molded. On Bright, I was going to do that for Numi, but it ended up just being like, I got some fabric in from Turkey, and it was just this brocade suits. And so, I made the suits for her and the elves, and then a lot of the gang, we made all the jerseys and stuff like that. So it's just, I try to just focus on the task at hand, like what's in front of me, and then just make sure I can make it happen. So I have enough resources now, and I've done enough wild stuff. Like I'm doing this one really crazy scene in this next movie that I'm doing with like this naked vampire, but she's supposed to be like really, ends up like in real life, she's a contortionist because she's a vampire. So they come back to life. So, but she's supposed to look like this like 90-year-old woman that's a vampire. And then she's naked and she's gonna have all these veins. So I have to make this suit. I'm working with this prosthetic company to make this suit. It's crazy because the way that her body's gonna bend, she can bend fully backwards and forwards. So she can go from bending completely back all the way up. So it's just, so I have to make a suit that's gonna be not in the way. So that's something that, it just depends on really what I'm doing. I don't really have like one specific approach because every job is so fluid and just, I didn't know that I'd be doing projects that I was 3D printing clothes, you know what I mean? And doing all that stuff. So, and then the comedy shows or comedy stuff is different because comedy's hard. I did The Wrong Missy, really funny movie on Netflix.
I love that movie.
So funny. Even when I watched it, I didn't even know it would be that funny when I was shooting it. It is so funny. Oh my God, she is so funny, Lauren. But comedy is, everything about a comedy has to do with the clothes. So that's what makes it funny. Either they fall, they get spilled on, they jump down a cliff and they tear their stuff. Like it's just, and it's Happy Madison company. So it's very last minute because everybody that works on those movies is hilarious. So the jokes just come. And it's like, all of a sudden, it's like, there's a pie in the face, or there's this, or this, and then you just kind of have to roll with it. So yeah, that's just, which is a totally opposite approach than doing superheroes.
It's absolutely mental that 3D printing clothes is even a thing. Just that's even a concept is nuts.
Yeah, it's wild. I know when Sly saw his costume when it came up from Weta, he was like, he was just blown away. He's like, this is the coolest thing. He's like, this is going on a Sly mannequin in my house after this movie wraps. I was just like,
that's amazing.
Yeah, so that's been fun.
You ever consult or like talk to the people that the characters are based on? Like for biker gangs for Sons of Anarchy, like did you sit down with the members of NWA for Straight Outta Compton, that sort of thing?
Yep. And for Straight Outta Compton, one of the first people I met, I believe, I'm not saying her name wrong, her name Tamika, which is Eazy-E's widow. So she has a, I forgot what her record label is called. So I went out to her record label, it's in the Valley, and I met with her and she showed me all these pictures of her and Eazy, like on vacations, and just all of these older pictures that just, you just don't have, you can't find on the internet. And then I talked to all of them. I talked to Dre about, he showed everyone videos of the pool parties. So, cause that was really big in the movie. So Dr. Dre, I would really see how everybody dressed and how he dressed and stuff. And then Cube was the same way. And even for, his wife in the movie, I asked him, like, so how did she dress? And he was just like, oh, she was an around the way girl. And I'm like, oh my God, I love that you just said that. Like, bring me back. I was like, I'm gonna just, and my assistant's like Googling around the way girl. Like, how's that girl? Oh my God, I was just like blown away by that whole process. And then for Sons of Anarchy, yes, I did. I talked with a lot of the Hells Angels. So there was one guy, I believe he's not in the Hells Angels anymore, which normally doesn't happen. He's one of the main actors in it. So he was the one that really kind of took me under his wing and showed me exactly, I made sure not to fuck up, because he's like, this is how, like, if you don't want to put leather on people, if you don't want to put logos on people, because I was hard on no chaps, no unnecessary leather, no logos, nothing that people that don't know that world stereotype bikers to look like. And so I just wanted to make it look cool. But yeah, so I did talk to the Hells Angels, and yeah, there was like, it started with just one on the show, and then there was a couple, whether they're still in the chapters or not. They were either the president of their certain chapters or whatever. So I really had to kind of stay true to that. I mean, you just want to make sure that, you know, you're kind of given the respect that it deserves. So that is normally what I do. I mean, I didn't actually talk to a Power Ranger when I did the Power Rangers. So.
What has been your favorite project so far that you've done?
I mean, it's Sons of Anarchy. It's so weird. All the projects I do are hard. And I've realized the more I do, the harder they get. And I don't know if it's because there's more pressure on the director to deliver. And it's just a lot, you know, there's just it's a fickle industry. And I've realized in movies, you fuck up a couple times and you're not working again. And I'm talking about like directors and producers. And so the stress of working on a movie set, it's like, oh, it's so glamorous in the movies. It's so great. And I love working on movies because you get a lot more time to create something. So for my aspect, it's a lot more time. But I think because I was so much younger and it was one of my first like successful shows, Sons of Anarchy, hands down, was the most fun because it was also most of those guys and girls' first successful shows. So we were just such a tight, like we'd go on vacations together and like Big Bear and skydiving and all this like crazy shit because it was just like this tight, fun group. I mean, to this day, Morgana, Charlie's girl, is still my best friend. I moved to New Orleans, and Kristen Renton, who played, she was one of the porn girls for the whole series. She lives in New Orleans too. We're gonna get drinks next week. Like, it's just one of those, like, I talk to a lot of those people on a regular basis. So it was kind of a special moment. And then it also, because Kurt was his writing was he developed that world. That is Kurt's world. But when I first went on the interview with him, he said to me, we sat down in this office, I hadn't seen him since The Shield, and he goes, Kelly, I gotta be honest with you. He goes, this is not a TV show where anyone is gonna notice clothes. And you're not gonna get any sort of recognition from this show. The show is not about the clothes. So he's like, so as long as I don't notice something that I hate, you're cool. Like, tell me what you're going to do with the main characters, and I'll give you some things if I come up with certain ideas. He's like, but I just don't want to miss the clothes. This is about the story. This is about the boys. So in that respect, he let me kind of do whatever I wanted, as long as I didn't hate it. And it was a collaboration with the guys, because all the guys were so excited that they all kind of took on the persona a little bit of like bad boy motorcycles, second, third season. And everyone was just so excited to like look a little bit different and have their own like little flair. So it was a collaborative effort. Like, they would come in and we'd talk about, you know, like Charlie, those Suns rings Charlie designed. So he actually like sketched out the Suns rings. And so, yeah, I'm not taking credit for that. Like, that was him. And he did that during the hiatus. So those guys really thought about that. So I would bring stuff in. I would get a lot of the jewelry I had made, like the stuff for Kim. And then Katie, Katie was just very open. She's very opinionated about what she wanted, what she was going to wear, what she wasn't going to wear. But she was open with it because her biker look, that is not Katie Seagal. I mean, she would come in and there's like linen pants and this like float, like she's a little hippie and she's just so lovely. And then I would just put her in these corsets and everything was so tight and, you know, it's cut down to here and everything's falling out and she just was going for it. So that was so much fun. And because it was also 7 years, movies, yeah, you have a lot of fun and it's so creative, then it's done. And it's like you get put in the spin cycle and then you're out. So with Sons, we kind of got to enjoy. We knew it was successful when we were doing it. With movies, you don't know if it's going to literally be the biggest piece of shit or not. You don't know if it's going to be receptive. I've done 2 movies now where the critics and the audience could not be on more polar opposite sides of what they thought this movie was. Bright and Venom. I'm telling you, you go on Rotten Tomatoes, critics thought those movies were shit. The audience fucking loved them. So it's like so when you're making it, you don't know how that scale is going to tip. Like, you don't know if it's going to be something that's in and out in a flash. And so it's like Sons was great because we all got to enjoy that we were working on a really successful project that people really loved. And I also had that was my one and only like real clothing line. So yeah, that was my favorite project. I've loved most all of them. There's only been a couple, I think, that I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'd do that again. But that was definitely, it sticks with you for sure.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Thanks.
You must see some amazing things being on set, because I'm assuming you're on set every day, because if something goes wrong, you got to be there to...
Yeah.
You must have seen one of the questions I wrote down was you must have met some amazing people during your career, like any standout moments. But I'm thinking the amount of people you've told me you've met, you know, it's incredible. The fact you just told me you sat down with Dr. Dre and looked at old videos has just blown my mind.
But it blew the first time I met, because I met Tamika at her studio, and then the line producer, it was like the first, right before we all started, they were like, we want you to go to Dre's studio and we're going to watch some clips of old, like NWA and some of their parties. So it was me, it was Maddie, the DP, the line producer, and the director, and Dre and Cube. And I go down to this, you wouldn't even know that that's his studio in the Valley. And you go down from behind and you go down, and I'm like, I'm in Dr. Dre's studio right now. And listening to Dr. Dre's foot away from me, tell me about like how it evolved, how everything evolved, like to the Chronic and stuff. I'm like, this is a fucking nuts. Like it was, and you know, Cube's over there. It was crazy. But yeah, I have gotten myself, and there was a question, I did another interview a while ago though. And someone was like, have you ever been starstruck? And I hate that word, because one, that's just not like, you can't be starstruck to work in this business, because you do meet a lot of celebrities and blah, blah. But I did say there's got to be someone, there's always someone. And I was like, yeah, there was. And it was Will Smith. And the reason it was Will Smith is because for me, it's one thing seeing someone on a screen for a couple movies here and there, but when they're in your living room every night on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, when you're growing up, like you feel like you know them a little. It's just so wild. So he knew he was going to be in the movie, and I had like about a month before I did a fitting with him. But it just kind of hit me when I was doing the fitting with him. I'm like, he literally, like, you kind of grow up with that. So, and of course he's exactly how anybody would want him to, like in their mind, like how would you think would be the coolest version of Will Smith? It's who he is. He's just the nicest guy on the fucking planet. So yeah, so that was cool and funny and everything. So yeah, but yeah, I think like the craziest thing in the beginning though was kind of hanging out with the Hells Angels. I was like, you know, I'm from Oregon. There's a chapter up there when I was growing up. So it was just like, God, like this is, you know, that's a whole world in and of itself too. Like just the movie type of thing.
I can imagine that being quite scary, to be fair.
I mean, it was never scary, as weird as it is, because they all took me on as like their little sister. Like when I first started dating my husband, DL like literally went up to him and said, if you fuck with her, I will kill you. Like there is no, and yeah, he was joking, but it's just whatever. But yeah, so yeah.
It's like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not behind it yet. Yeah.
We saw him running past early. He was escaping while he could.
Exactly. I know. I was like, what's happening back there?
How did you get off the radio? I was wondering, like, have you ever kept like keepsakes from sets? Like any costumes that no one wanted, you're like, I'll have that for the old memory closet?
You can't. I mean, unfortunately, you can't. I mean, a lot of the actors can't even keep their stuff. So it all goes into, I mean, there's stuff I would like to take. And at the end of Sons, like, yeah, there's some jewelry. I mean, I made a lot of that stuff, especially for Katie. So I took some of the pieces, but you know, the studios own everything. And so there's so many times the actors will come to me and they're like, oh, can I have this when the shoot's done? And it's like, oh, well, how do I, like, I don't want to say no. I mean, the only people like Dre and Cube came in and took I made all that Raider stuff and all the gear and the NWA. So they took a bunch of the gear. And then I think Tom Hardy took a couple pairs of boots But yeah, no, I can take nothing. Like there's nothing I can take. And I don't even know what I would if I could. I mean, I don't know. I think because I just tend to move on from one to the next, that it's just, yeah, I just kind of keep rolling. So yeah, I don't have any, I'm not a big pack rat on like any sense of anything. So, you know.
Just that vision of you making something, you're like, this is so nice, I'm not going to see it again.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, that's pretty much how it is. I mean, I've made a lot of cool stuff for Bright. And, I mean, all the shows I've done, I've made some cool stuff for. And so, but yeah, I've not kept anything. So yeah.
Suits are beautiful and Bright, so beautiful. I was looking at some photos of them earlier, it's like, they are so lovely.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Now, a project of yours, which is a particular passion of mine and Tom's, is the Power Rangers. You know, we've had two big members of the Power Rangers on this show. We spoke to David Fielding, who played Zordon on the original show.
Okay.
And we spoke to, well, we haven't spoken to him yet. It'll be an upcoming episode. We're speaking to Ron Vesserman, who wrote the original theme song.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so Power Rangers is quite big to us. What was it like working on that project? Because obviously it was a reboot of a show a lot of people held in high regard. It was a lot of people's childhood. There've got to have been some pressure on that.
I mean, there was. I mean, again, to be honest, I came on after, and this happens a couple times. It's the only time this has happened with my movie or anything I worked on, but a lot of times in those movies, the production designer designs a lot of the costume. The production designer of that movie was on for a year. So I came on, I got 5 months to prep the illustrations, and I did all of Rita Repulsa. So everything that she wore, Elizabeth wore, that was something that I, from conception until the very end, it was on her. That was me, and working with an illustrator and with the director, Dean. But the Power Rangers suits, those had already been illustrated. They hadn't been designed, because that was a whole other issue that we had to deal with to go from illustration to actual functioning. But that had already been done. And I remember I got called in there. It was, I think, a week after Straight Outta Compton came out. And I was asked to go on this meeting with the director. And I'd seen Power Rangers, but I thought it was interesting they were going to do a reboot. And I didn't know why I was going in for that meeting, because I figured it would look like the old Power Rangers. So when I went in, those illustrations were all on Dean's wall. And I was like, oh, I get it. Like, you want it to be a little bit more industrial, a little bit sleeker, a little, just more, superhero than how it was in, like, the spandex and stuff like that. A little sexier, a little, just grittier. And that's exactly what Dean said. It's like, it's just set in it was a different tone, a different world. We're just trying to like update it to the way that, would still, not offend anybody who, was a huge fans of the Power Rangers. But what I've realized about doing superhero stuff is that there's always comparisons to everything. So it's like, if we would have done it exactly like the Power Rangers and had those same suits, it's like, then we're not doing anything new. If we do anything that has any armor, then it looks like Iron Man, or it looks like this. Everything's derivative of something. And people in that world are pretty harsh if they don't like something. So I know that when those suits first came out, some of the people, Twitter and all this stuff, they said it looked like Iron Man, or it looked like this, like it didn't look like Power Rangers. So it wasn't until people saw the movie and they saw them actually moving in it that they realized that it was pretty cool. But I mean, so that's pretty much, we had a lot of creative freedom with that movie. I mean, it was supposed to go 5 movies. Like, there was not supposed to just one, So it just didn't make the revenue that it needed to make to justify. It was such a high budget to justify doing another 4. The actors all signed on for 5. So yeah, that's the one thing. I mean, everything, I just have learned to stay off the internet after I design something that comes out. You know what I mean? I mean, some people thought that that Elizabeth Banks green thing looked like poison ivy. Like, it's like, oh, because it's green? Like, what? So I don't know. We did have a core group of people that really loved that movie. And I thought I mean, those costumes are really hard to make. I mean, Weta made them in New Zealand. So the director and I had to fly to New Zealand. We'd fly down for 24 hours and fly back and see what the helmet looked like. And I made Rita Repulsa at Legacy. So that was in Los Angeles. So at least that was easier to get to from Vancouver. But yeah, I mean, it was a shame. I know they're making another reboot. So I did for that. And the original actors are not in it. But they're all off, like that all kind of sprungboard, and now like Dacre's like a big star, and everyone's kind of a big star from that. So, which that is so great. I just love those kids so much. They're so cool. So yeah, so that was that experience.
I loved your version of Rita. Okay, it was completely polar opposite to the original version, but I don't think that original look would have worked at all now.
That's what, like, there's just no way it would have worked, and that was when we were trying to concept her, because what had happened is that, so I forgot who, I think it was Aaron Sims and Legacy that did the concept art for the Power Rangers. And they had tried to do concept art that looked a little bit more like the Rita Repulsa for Rita Repulsa. So when I was hired, the studio, Lionsgate, and everyone's like, I'm just not feeling the Rita Repulsa. And I said, give it to me. Just give it to me. Let me work on it. It just didn't look right. It just, with the way that those guys looked, the Power Rangers, it just didn't look right. So I just said, just let me, if you don't like it, I'll get these illustrations done quick, or at least see if you like the direction. And then we just kind of went from there. But yeah, and that's, Elizabeth liked it too. Like, she liked that it wasn't, let's say, the gown thing and everything, that all the bells and whistles that she had. And it was something that she can move in a little easier. So yeah, but thank you. I love those costumes. I think those were rad.
They were awesome. I mean, sorry, Jeremy.
No, I was going to say there was two things that stood out to me in that movie, like costume-wise, and I was thinking back on it. And that was Rita, because I really loved that portrayal. And also, there's one thing I always loved from the Power Rangers, and you stuck to that, and that was Jason always wears red, Zach always wears black, Kimberly always wears pink. And you stuck to that, and I was like, yes, that's what I want from Power Rangers. I don't care what iteration.
Thank you. And there had to be something that we pulled from the original. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, and even though, Becky G and, she's a pop star and stuff, it's like we wanted to put her in, she always had a little bit of yellow, and Naomi had a little bit of pink. Like, so it kept a little bit of the same without them then having to go to those full pink, yellow, all those costumes, so, but thank you for noticing that. I don't know if that's good.
I mean, I was just going to say, everyone loves to be a keyboard warrior, don't they? As soon as they see something they don't like, everyone just loves to be like, I want to be the first one to be like, this is fucking shit. You've made it look like, I don't understand it myself.
No, it's crazy. I got on Twitter when I was doing Sons of Anarchy, and I got a pretty big following of Twitter because we just take crazy, weird pictures on set and stuff. But then people would, the more things you do where there's a following, one misstep in someone's mind that's watching it, and it is on. I mean, it is slamming those keyboard letters and letting them know how you feel. They're in someone's basement and they are mad. And so it's like, I realized that, I mean, that's everything that I've done. You know what I mean? It's like, but this is like, my husband owns restaurants, and he always says, it's ones and fives. That's all you should care about. It's like a Yelp review. 1 of 5. No one remembers a 3. So it's like, that's how.
I like that.
You know what I mean? You're going to remember the 1s and the 5s, not the 3s. So that's even how I go hard or go home. Do something, convict to it. Just make sure that you're behind it. And that's how I am with all the designing that I've done. It's like, I definitely, there's, superheroes are hard, and everyone's going to see something derived from something else. And, if you do biopics are hard too, because those are actual people and they're very famous, and some of them are living and some of them have passed on. And you do it about gangs. Well, there's a lot of gangs out there, and they really know how people dress and all this stuff. So you just can't win for fucking losing. So you just got to do it. You just got to do it and just, have conviction, and that's that. So, yeah.
Have you ever designed anything for anybody where they've gone, no?
While we were designing it, or when it was on after it came out.
Well, mainly after it came out, but I mean, any stories you could actually tell us without, we're not trying to bitch or anything, but I mean, when they've just literally designed it and you've gone, ta-da, and they've gone, yeah, I'm not wearing that.
Oh, like an actor saying that.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty persuasive. I'm trying to think. I'm 6 feet tall and I wear heels, and yeah, I'm pretty persuasive. And I'm very confident too, though, with what, like, I do know some other people that work in costumes and wardrobe, and these actors are confident. Let's just face it. Like, they're confident. They know what they want. They have made it in an industry that is impossible to make it in, and they are driven, and they're just, they're just massive beings, so it's like when you go in there and their worlds are big, everything's just big around them. So when you go in there, it's like, you better know what you're fucking talking about. So, and you better have a conviction. And, so I don't remember the last time I went into a fitting and that absolutely someone said no. I mean, and I'm not being like egotistical, because it's just, but I'm also pretty realistic on what something's gonna look like. I think because a lot of it is, like, costume design is design style, it's actual like taste, and then it's psychology. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're going in there, you're developing a relationship very quickly. This person is going to be on screen. You are not. So they have to trust you, but it's really like what they're going to end up looking like. And so, I'm again, like, I'm open, and if something does, it would more happen in TV than movies. In movies, again, it's more designed. In TV, it's a lot of the actors, some of the actresses I've worked with and actors, it's like they kind of are playing themselves, something not too far away. So if they wouldn't wear it, then they're not going to wear it. But movies, it's more of like it's more developing a character for just these 2 hours, and so it's sort of something, a TV show, someone's going to have to, if they commit to a shirt, they may be wearing it for 7 seasons. So it's like, if that's what they want, that's not happening. So yeah.
Just damn good at what you do, Kelly. That's all it is.
Yeah. I don't know. There have been, sometimes, I just know that people sometimes don't like it when they see it on the screen, or something's off or some whatever. So, but the actors I normally have watch this next movie. I like go in and Jamie Foxx is like, I'm not wearing any fucking thing you're showing me. I jinxed myself.
Damn those two British guys.
Yeah. Oh.
Are there any types of movies that you haven't worked on yet that you'd like to?
I have not worked on heavy period, and I would do a Western if it had a certain kind of flair to it that wasn't, I don't know, like some of my friends that are designers, they're like obsessed with doing Westerns, and I'm like period Westerns. And I think that, I don't know if I could pull something contemporary. There's other people that, when they see a movie like the Titanic, they're like, oh my God, if I could design that movie, I'm like, oh my God, I'd kill myself. Like that. I'm just so in the fantasy, sci-fi, gang, contemporary world that when I see that, I have enough pressure to make sure that the gang members aren't pissed at me for portraying them a certain way. Like, to really get the detail. It's a lot of renting clothes, first of all, to do period movies like that. But it's hard. Like, period is like, especially like the 1800s and even like 1910, the 20s and up, maybe the 30s, depending on how contained the movie was. The movie like Titanic, though, there's just such a mass amount of people and mass amount of period clothes that you can only make, depending on the budget, you can only make things so fast for so cheap. And there's only so many of those clothes you can rent. So, really, the movie I was going to do that, and it wasn't even period, that ended up going away at the last minute, I was prepping, was Scarface. So it was a remake of Scarface that David Ayer was directing. And then it went away at almost the last minute. But I'm like, if I could do a remake of Scarface and do an updated version of that Michelle Pfeiffer's dress and that look, I could never work again and be happy. So that's kind of it. It's just, you know what I mean? It's ideal. Oh my God. And then when that movie went away, I cried or whatever. So yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I just take the projects as I come, you know what I mean? So it's like, if it is something, because it's not just about the design element, it's also about the content of the movie. And if I feel the movie's because a costume design is never going to break a movie. It's also never going to be the reason the movie is successful, costume design alone. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like if the Titanic sucked, if Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio could not have acted there like out of a shoebox, those costumes are not going to save that movie. Do you know what I mean? Like directing was bad. So I look at whether it's going to be interesting for me to design, but also are the other elements there, because everything we do is hard fucking work. So you want to hope that for the best, and the end product is going to be something that people enjoy and that, you know, it sticks around for a little while and stuff. So that's kind of like, so I don't think I would be able to say that there's one specific genre, because it would have like, it's the pieces that make the whole. So that's kind of what I look for and stuff.
Amazing.
So obviously you've mentioned the Jamie Foxx vampire movie, but what else is next for you? Have you got anything else lined up?
That's the one. I mean, with this COVID shit, I'm telling you, that is like, there's really not a lot of stuff shooting. There's a lot of TV shooting. But no, The Samaritan, that's Sly. So that's coming out. Well, it's supposed to be June, but who knows now? It's still June, as there's been nothing official. But no, then the Jamie Foxx. I start the Jamie Foxx movie. It's like basically now. I'm doing a couple days here and there. And then we start shooting April 19th. That it wraps the end of June. So that'll come out probably in 2022. So, which I can't, it's like already talking about 2022. So yeah, that's really my next thing is that movie. So yeah, which I'm excited. Yeah.
Incredible.
Looking forward to it.
Before we move on to a little game we like to play, Tom, have you got any more questions you want to?
No, I just want to say, Kelly, thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I've really, really enjoyed talking to you.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's been fun. I know every time when I do these, I'm like, oh, sometimes I just don't know what the fuck I'm saying, but I just
That's why we like to just make it a conversation. We've had people say, like, what do I need to prep? I'm like, nothing, just bring yourself. And preferably some memory, that would be helpful. No, look, so I hinted then we like to play a game. It's nothing to worry about. We just call it a quick fire round. We fire 6 questions at you and you answer them as quick as you can. It's as simple as that.
Oh, no biggie. No,
nothing. It's not like an algebra test. It's very simple questions.
I'd rather that.
Here you go.
Could it be a drinking game?
Here's question 1 here's a prime example. Favorite Muppet?
Oscar the Grouch. Is that a Muppet?
Good answer. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Favorite pizza topping?
Mushroom.
Oh, good choice. Good choice. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Be invisible.
Oh, I like it. First ever concert you went to?
Concert?
Yeah.
EMF. So weird that I remember this. Jesus and Mary Chain. Is that it? And EMF. Random. I was so fucking young, and it was in Portland, Oregon. But that's when like all of like, you know, it's weird. Look them up. They're good. They had like one song, but that was
that's good stuff. I know Jesus and the Mary Chain. I don't know EMF though.
Jesus and Mary Chain and EMF played together in Portland, Oregon. I was too young to go, basically.
If there was one franchise you could work on, what would it be?
Oh, a franchise. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. That's about, I don't know. Like, because now I have Scarface, like that's not a franchise. That could never be a franchise. Everyone dies in the end. I don't know, because I don't know if I do a franchise. I like things that people die.
That's amazing. And one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
I mean, just keep going. Just keep going. That's it. I mean, I kind of did that advice, but that's kind of, just keep going and don't take anything personal. Don't take any critique personal. That's what it is.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Remember the ones and the fives. I love that. That's such a good expression. I love that. Kelly, this has been awesome. We've had so much fun. Before we get out of here, is there any social medias, any websites, anything you wanted to plug for people to check out and whatnot?
I mean, no, like I'm not really on Instagram. I mean, I like do bullshit on Instagram. It's like Kelly and then 2_ Jones, because there's 50 million Kelli Joneses in this world. I'm like, and that everyone's like, how do you find it? I'm like, I don't even know how I came up. No one knows even how to do an underscore. And all of a sudden I have 2 in between my names. And then I think, I don't know, Twitter. I don't even do anything with Twitter. I don't do anything on Twitter because honestly, no one cares about anything I have to say on Twitter except for people that follow Sons of Anarchy. Like, that's what I realized. I have like 14,000 followers on Twitter, and unless I say something about Sons, no one gives a shit. So I'm never on Twitter. And that's all my website's Kelli Jones Designs. And I don't even think that's updated. So I'll be working on that after this. I'm kind of behind the 8 ball on some.
No, but so much fun. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks you guys. Thanks for reaching out. I'm super honored to be on this.
Not at all. Thank you so. We really appreciate your time, and we hope you have an absolutely incredible day. And thank you so much. We've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
You too. Thanks, guys.
Take care now. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Hey there. I'm Frank Guglielmelli, and I'm the narrator for the audio drama Feed, featuring such audio dramas as Bounty Hunters, Marty and Mars, Val Toby, and so much more. You can find all of these wonderful programs on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. Or you can go to our website at www.audiodramafeed.com. We are thrilled to be affiliated with the Chronicles of Podcast with Tom and Jamie.